Your place is closer. At 11:03 p.m., my phone lit up just as I was drifting off. I had work at 5 a.m. I was a seller at a restaurant supply warehouse, which meant long hours, impatient clients, and early deliveries. My two kids had school in the morning. The apartment was finally quiet. Lunches were packed, backpacks were by the door. My son Liam was asleep with one foot hanging off the bed, and my daughter Sophie had somehow kicked off both socks again. Then Vanessa texted me, "Your place is closer. I'm dropping my two kids for 10 days." My ex-boyfriend surprised me with Greece. I stared at the screen. Before I could even react, another message came in. "My mom has your spare key. She's on the way." For a second, I thought it had to be a joke. A terrible late-night joke from someone who had forgotten normal people needed sleep and consent. Then I smiled. Not because it was funny, because in that exact moment, everything became clear. I sat up, reached for my phone, and called building security. "Evening, Oliver," Thomas said, his voice groggy. "Hey, I need to update my access list right now." That woke him up. What happened? Remove Vanessa Cole and Judith Cole. No access, no exceptions. If they try to use an old spare key, it's unauthorized. There was a pause. Then, understood. I opened the resident app and revoked the guest code Vanessa had been using for months. Then I checked the deadbolt, turned the chain lock, and set my phone on the kitchen counter. At 11:21, the intercom buzzed. I let it ring once, twice. Then I pressed the button. Yes. Judith's voice came through first, clipped and offended. "Open the door, Oliver. We're downstairs." No. A beat of silence. Then Vanessa grabbed the intercom. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean, the building has new instructions." "Oliver, stop being dramatic," she snapped. "We're standing here with two suitcases, Maya's car seat, and the kids are half asleep." "That sounds like terrible planning." Her voice turned sharp. "I told you Marco surprised me with Greece." "Your ex-boyfriend surprised you with Greece," I corrected. "He's not my ex like that." I laughed once. That sentence doesn't even deserve an answer. Judith cut in. "This is childish." "Open the door." "No. You said you loved Vanessa." "I did," I said calmly. "That didn't include being volunteered for 10 days of childcare at 11 at night." Vanessa hissed. "Don't do this in front of the kids." That line almost impressed me. She had dragged her children across the city close to midnight with luggage and a car seat, planning to leave them with me, whether I agreed or not. And now she wanted to talk about not doing this in front of them. "Take them home," I said. "Put them to bed. Be their mother." "Oliver." "No. Listen carefully. You do not have permission to enter my apartment. You do not have permission to use my spare key. If your mother tries, security has instructions." Judith sounded scandalized. "You would humiliate us like this." I leaned against the wall and closed my eyes for a moment. Humiliate. That word was rich coming from them. "No," I said quietly. "Vanessa did that herself." Then I disconnected the intercom. I didn't sleep much after that, but for the first time in months, I didn't feel confused. I met Vanessa 9 months earlier at a coffee shop near the warehouse. She was balancing 2 drinks, a paper bag, and a little girl in a pink coat trying to wrestle a muffin open with both hands. "Can you get the door?" she asked, smiling. I did. "Thanks," she said. "Single mom tax. That sounds expensive." "It is. Mostly in dignity." I laughed. She laughed. The little girl grinned at me like she approved. It felt easy. A week later, I saw Vanessa again. Then again, after that. By the 3rd time, I knew her name. By the 5th, I knew her son Noah was 8, her daughter Maya was 4, and their father, according to Vanessa, was a charming disappointment. That should have warned me. People who reduce entire relationships to clever lines usually aren't done living in the drama of them. Still, she was beautiful in a way that made people rearrange themselves around her. Not just pretty, precise. She knew exactly how to sound tired, wounded, brave, and affectionate in the same breath. And I was tired too. Divorced for 3 years, working too much, raising 2 kids, running on coffee and routine. Vanessa felt like warmth. She admired that I worked hard. She said I was stable, which at the time sounded like respect, not recruitment. At first, Everything seemed normal. Then she started needing things. Can you watch Maya for 20 minutes while I run to the pharmacy? Do you mind picking Noah up? I'm stuck in traffic. My card froze. Could you cover dinner? I'll send it tomorrow. Tomorrow became next week. Next week became I haven't forgotten. That became tears, then irritation. Then somehow my silence became the problem. I should have recognized the pattern sooner, but people like Vanessa don't ask for everything at once. They build it slowly, one reasonable favor at a time, until saying no feels cruel. Then she met my kids. Too soon for my taste, but she pushed gently. I'm not asking you to play house, Oliver. I just want to know if this is real. Real. That word did a lot of work for her. So I let her in. Soon, she was leaving shampoo in my bathroom, then makeup in a drawer, then cereal her kids liked in my pantry, then clothes, then opinions. Your place is easier, she said one day over coffee in my kitchen. We should mostly stay here. Mostly became almost always. Her apartment was too small, too loud, too far, too depressing. My place had more room, safer parking, better internet, and a better school commute. She said it all like logistics, but the truth was simpler. My apartment solved problems she didn't want to solve herself. I wasn't a boyfriend anymore. I was infrastructure. But her kids were good kids. Noah was quiet and observant, the kind of boy who looked suspicious of kindness until you proved it was real. Maya attached quickly, which broke my heart a little because it told me she was used to adults appearing and disappearing. And when Vanessa wanted to be soft, she was convincing. Late at night, after the kids were asleep, she'd rest her head against my shoulder and whisper, I don't know what I'd do without you. At first, I thought she meant emotionally. Later, I realized she meant practically. The first real crack came when I found out she was still texting Marco. Not normal co-parenting things, not updates about the kids. Late night messages, flirtation, memories. I didn't snoop. Her phone lit up while she was in the shower. Wish you were coming with me instead. When she came out, I asked, why is Marco texting you like that? She froze for half a second, then narrowed her eyes. You read my messages? I saw the preview. So you invaded my privacy. That should have ended it right there. Instead, by the end of the night, she was crying, and by the end of the week, I was apologizing for making her feel judged. That was Vanessa's real talent. She could take any boundary and reframe it as betrayal. A month later, I paid for her breaks. A month after that, I covered a preschool deposit for Maya, then groceries, then a phone bill, then Noah's winter boots, because she had a rough month. Her mother, Judith, only made it worse. Judith was one of those women who didn't really speak to you. She assessed you. Everything about her was polished and strategic. She'd pat my arm and say things like, Vanessa needs a strong man, like I was applying for a role. One afternoon, she glanced at the key bowl on my kitchen counter and said, good. So if Vanessa ever needs something, we know where the spare is. I corrected her. Vanessa has the spare. Judith smiled. Exactly. No, not exactly. But by then, I was already deep enough in the mess to start doubting my own instincts. The week before the Grease stunt, Vanessa had been glued to her phone, smiling at it, tilting the screen away, taking work calls on the balcony. One night I woke up and found her in the kitchen at 1 a.m, lit by the glow of her phone, grinning at whatever she was typing. Who's got you so happy? I asked. She didn't even flinch. Tina sent a stupid meme. 3 days later, while stirring coffee in my kitchen, she asked casually, what time do you leave on Tuesday? 4:45? And the kids? School. She nodded. At the time, it felt like conversation. Later, I understood it was reconnaissance. The morning after I denied her entry, I got up at 4:20 anyway. That's adulthood. Even after somebody detonates your night, the alarm still goes off. I showered, dressed, made coffee, packed lunches, and got out the door before the kids woke up. At 5:11, while I was loading sales sheets into the truck, the first text came. I cannot believe you left us outside like animals. Then another. Maya cried herself to sleep. Noah is devastated. Hope you're proud. Then Judith. A real man would have stepped up. I put the phone face down on the passenger seat. By mid-morning, Vanessa texted again. Marco only offered the trip because he felt bad that I've had such a hard year. It wasn't romantic. You made this ugly for no reason. That was Vanessa in a sentence. She could turn attempted abandonment into an issue of tone. At 2 in the afternoon, I entered an unknown number. Oliver? A man asked. Yes, it's Marco. Of course it was. I stepped outside the loading bay. You've got nerve calling me, he sighed. Vanessa's upset. Use a better opening. He was quiet for a second. I didn't know she planned to leave the kids with you. That got my attention. She told me they were staying with Judith, he said. There it was, the first piece of truth. So the Greece trip hasn't even happened? I asked. No, we didn't leave. I looked across the loading yard, jaw tight. So she dragged 2 exhausted children across the city at midnight with suitcases. Got denied, and then what? Took them back to her mother's? Another pause. Yeah. I closed my eyes. Not because I was surprised, because I could picture Noah and Maya being loaded from one car to another while the adults in charge competed in selfishness. I'm going to say this once, I told him. Whether you're sleeping with her again or trying to relive your 20s with airline miles, stay out of my life. That's fair, he said. Then, lower, for what it's worth, you were right. I hung up. I didn't care about being right. I cared about being done. That night, after dinner and homework with my kids, I sat at the kitchen table and made a list. Facts, not feelings. Breaks. Phone bill. Maya's preschool deposit. Noah's school uniform. Groceries. 3 small loans. Gas money. A doctor copay. A cracked tablet replacement. A winter coat Judith promised to reimburse. Then I wrote one more question at the bottom. What did she actually give me? I sat there with the pen in my hand. Sex? Sure. Company? Sometimes. Affection? When she wanted something. Chaos? Constantly. Attachment to children I had no real right to protect? Absolutely. Under that, I wrote, how many times did I know and stay anyway? Too many. Sophie wandered into the kitchen in dinosaur pajamas and climbed onto my lap. Why are you awake? She asked sleepily. Couldn't sleep. She looked at my face. For a moment, you're doing the quiet smile. The what? The one where you smile but your eyes don't. Kids are terrifyingly accurate. I hugged her. I'm okay. She yawned. Good. Because you're the only grown-up here who knows where my blue hoodie is. That made me laugh. A real one. And in that moment, something shifted. I was so tired of being the responsible one for irresponsible adults. Vanessa didn't stop immediately. People like her rarely stop when denied. They escalate. First, by Thursday, 2 of her friends had texted me paragraphs about compassion. Her sister said I had traumatized the children. Judith sent a voice message calling me petty, vindictive, and emotionally immature. Then Vanessa sent the masterpiece. I gave you a real chance, Oliver. My kids loved you. I trusted you. But when I needed you most, you showed me who you are. Don't contact us again. I stared at it and typed back. You tried to abandon your kids for a vacation with another man and force your way into my home with a borrowed key. You showed me who you are first. Her reply came fast. You're sick. I blocked her. Then Judith. Then the sister. Then every number that came carrying outrage I hadn't earned. For 2 days, it was almost peaceful. Then Saturday afternoon, while Liam and I were working on a model volcano for school, someone knocked on my door. I checked the people and my stomach dropped. Noah stood there alone, backpack on, staring at the floor. I opened the door immediately. Noah? He looked up. Hi, where's your mom? He shrugged. In the car. I stepped into the hall and saw Vanessa near the elevator, wearing sunglasses and leaning against the wall like she was waiting for a lunch reservation. Unbelievable. Absolutely not, I said. She walked toward me. Can we not do this in the hall? Noah, I said gently, go stand inside for a second, okay. He slipped into the apartment, clutching his backpack straps. Vanessa stopped in front of me. She looked polished and composed, not desperate, not ashamed, just irritated that I wasn't cooperating. I need to talk to you, she said. You need to leave. Noah wanted to see you. I looked at her hard. Did he? Or did you bring him because you thought I'd be easier to manipulate in front of him? Her jaw tightened. You're unbelievable. You keep proving I'm not cynical enough. She folded her arms. You blocked me. Yes. You can't just cut people off because of one misunderstanding. I gave a short laugh. One misunderstanding? You tried to drop your kids at my apartment for 10 days so you could go to Greece with your ex. It was 8 days. I stared at her. The fact that she corrected the number told me everything. I'm not doing this, I said. Marco and I didn't even go. That's supposed to impress me? It means I chose my kids. No, I said. It means your plan failed. That one hit. I saw it in her face. Then she switched tactics. You don't understand how hard this is, she said. I'm drowning all the time. You've never had to do this alone. I stepped closer and lowered my voice because my children were 10 feet away. My ex-wife left when Sophie was 2, I said. I have done this alone. The difference is, I never tried to dump my kids on somebody's doorstep to chase a fantasy. For once, Vanessa had no line ready. I called Noah over and crouched down so we were eye level. Hey, buddy. Hey, I'm glad you came by, but your mom should have called first. He nodded, staring at the floor. Did you bring your backpack because you thought you were staying? A tiny shrug. That was enough. I stood and looked at Vanessa with a level of coldness that finally made her shift. You will never use your children to get through my boundaries again. Oliver? No. You are done using me. Financially, emotionally, logistically. All of it. She clenched her jaw. You're acting like I committed a crime. No, I said. I'm acting like I finally noticed the pattern. She took Noah's hand. Come on. At the elevator. He turned and gave me a small wave. I waved back. Then the doors closed. I went back inside and stood there for a long time, breathing through the anger. Not at him, at her. At myself for letting it reach this point. At the months I'd spent mistaking guilt for love and usefulness for intimacy. The final break came a week later, not because Vanessa came back, because Judith did. I got home from work and found her waiting in the lobby, sitting straight-backed like she owned the building. Oliver, she said smoothly, standing up, we need to settle this. We really don't. Vanessa has been a mess. That sounds like a family problem. She drew herself up. You led her on. I laughed in her face. That's the story you're going with. You made her believe she had support, stability, a future. No, I said. I offered a relationship. She turned it into unpaid labor and emergency childcare. Judith's expression sharpened. Do not speak about my daughter that way. Then stop describing her choices like she had no control over them. She stepped closer. You were good enough when her children needed consistency, weren't you? Good enough to play father. There it was, the core of it. I looked at her and suddenly saw exactly where Vanessa had learned it all. Charm over accountability. Outrage over honesty. Manipulation dressed as vulnerability. I was never playing father, I said quietly. I was being kind. Those are not the same thing. Judith crossed her arms. The children are asking questions. Then answer them honestly. I'm not going to tell them their mother made a mistake because a man got petty. I stepped closer too. Then tell them this, I said. Tell them Oliver stopped being available the day your daughter decided his home, time, and care belonged to her without permission. Tell them kindness is not ownership. Tell them men are not resources. For the first time, Judith looked stunned. Maybe nobody had spoken to her like that before. Good. She recovered fast. You think you're righteous. No, I said. I think I'm late. Then I walked past her to the elevator and left her standing there. After that, the silence finally became real. And in the quiet, my life started to feel like mine again. My bank balance stabilized. My groceries lasted longer. My apartment stayed cleaner. My children laughed more. On Sundays, instead of solving Vanessa's latest crisis, I took Liam and Sophie to the park, the library, or the little diner by the river, where the pancakes were ridiculous and the waitress called everybody honey. One morning, over breakfast, Liam looked around and said, "It's nicer now. What is home?" I turned off the stove and looked at him. He shrugged. It used to feel like we had to be careful all the time. that hit me harder than anything Vanessa ever said. Sophie, chewing toast, added, "Also, nobody drinks my juice and puts the empty carton back." I smiled, then surprised myself by saying, "I'm sorry." Liam frowned. For what? For not noticing sooner. He shrugged the way boys do when they're trying not to make a big thing out of something important. "It's okay," he said. "You noticed now." That sentence stayed with me. You noticed now. Sometimes that is the whole victory. Not revenge, not closure speeches, not apologies you'll never get, just clarity. Just finally seeing the pattern and refusing to keep standing in it. A month later, I saw Marco at a gas station. He looked tired and embarrassed. "Oliver," he said. "Marco, this is awkward. That suggests growth." He gave a dry laugh. "Vanessa told me you were controlling, then jealous, then cruel, then unavailable." The story kept changing. I said nothing. He rubbed his neck. "We're done. For real this time." I wasn't interested, but I was curious. "What happened?" "She asked me to co-sign a lease," he said. "When I said no, she called me financially abusive." I almost smiled. Before he left, he hesitated. "For what it's worth, the kids talked about you kindly." That one landed deep. Not because it fixed anything, because it reminded me that kindness had been real, even if the relationship built around it was not. By the end of summer, life looked different. Liam won a science award, Sophie lost her front tooth and lisped for 2 weeks. My numbers at work improved because my mind was finally on my own life instead of someone else's constant emergencies. My boss clapped me on the shoulder and said, "Whatever changed, keep doing it." So I did. I changed practical things first. No lending money to adults with permanent bad timing. No spare keys for women who confused access with entitlement. No rescuing people from patterns they were committed to repeating. Then I changed softer things. I bought a new couch because the old one reminded me of too many nights spent negotiating my own boundaries. I repainted the hallway with the kids. I threw away the spare key hook by the door. One Friday, after pizza and a movie, Sophie fell asleep against my arm. Liam kept staring at the blank TV screen and finally asked, "Do you think we'll ever have people here again?" It was a careful question. A brave one. "Maybe," I said, "but not people who make home feel crowded." He nodded. "Good." That was enough. A few weeks later, Vanessa sent one final email from a new address. "I hope you're happy." Noah started asking why adults always leave. Even then, she was still reaching for blame before truth. I typed 3 different replies and deleted all of them. Then I wrote the only honest one. "He deserves adults who stay without being used. I hope one day you become one of them." Then I blocked that address too. And that was the end. No dramatic finale, no screaming match in the rain, no sudden apology. Just a final refusal to carry guilt that wasn't mine. Sometimes people think strength is loud. A slammed door, a perfect speech, a public humiliation. Sometimes it is. But the strongest thing I did that year happened in a quiet apartment hallway at 11 p.m., barefoot, exhausted, with work at dawn and my own children asleep behind closed doors. I said no. No to being volunteered. No to being used as a backup parent without consent. No to having my love measured only by what inconvenience I would absorb. No to a woman who thought my steadiness meant surrender. No to her mother who thought boundaries were cruelty. No to the version of myself who confused compassion with self-erasure. My name is Oliver. I'm a seller. I wake up before sunrise, work hard, and come home to 2 kids who know when my eyes don't match my smile. That is my life. Ordinary, busy, honest. And honest lives do not have room for people who treat decency like unlocked property. The night Vanessa came to my building with 2 suitcases and a car seat, she thought she was meeting the same version of me she had always counted on. The man who would sigh, step aside, take over, and clean up her choices before morning. Instead, she met the man she had helped create, the one who finally understood that love without respect is just organized taking, the one who updated the access list, the one who let the intercom deliver the answer, the one who chose his children, his peace, and his dignity over being needed by someone who had never truly cared for any of them. And when the buzzer sounded and the building answered with new instructions, That wasn't cruelty. That was the first honest thing I had done for myself in a very long time.